Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Pigboy25 here, and today I am making another video, bringing you another video to commemorate a solemn occasion. Firehawk dies tonight, and I've come to put up my review, because I haven't done it yet, and my obligatory postmortem. It's been 2 weeks since I've last put up a video, being the Magic Waters acquisition. I was hoping to put something up last weekend, but I would have pumped out 2 reviews in a row, and I decided to just wait to get this guy out. This video was recorded on October 28th of 2018, about 5 p.m. Central Daylight Time, and Firehawk dies tonight. That is right, Firehawk dies tonight. It's his last operating day of the season. Last operating day for Kings Island until Holiday in the Park or Winterfest or whatever it is. And in this video, I will not only give it one last bout of criticism, but will also send my condolences, my post-mortem, the obituary for its final divine trek to the scrapyard, where it'll be cannibalized with parts for Nighthawk. It's always sad when a coaster leaves, even if it's a small thing, but one of this size at such a reputable park, even a little clunker can fall into that category of just being something that people miss. I'll just go through my traditional review. Now, I will say there's no pictures. I'm going to try and keep this whole thing solemn. If I sound depressing, this is not going to be an ordinary review. This is kind of meant to be a solemn occasion. I'm not here to hype it up. I'm not here to bring it down. I'm not here to bash. I'm just here to remember for what it was. We can all share the memories we had with this ride in peace and celebrate its life for what it was. Now its drop. Starting out with the traditional review pattern, I do quite like Firehawk's drop. Carries a bit of symbolism to me, but I'll save that for later. It goes from a lie to fly, from your back into a flying position at a 90-degree angle, and then banks left and does a steep dive into a right turn, which I quite like the drop. Gets the ball rolling well. Doesn't have any sort of extreme modifier, but it's a good drop and one that I remember. It's quite fun as well. It's kind of snappy at points. I mean, the experiences I'm sharing here likely not be relivable unless you ride Batwing. But I mean, yeah, I'm just gonna describe it anyway. But I quite like Firehawk's drop, and that transition from being on your back to being on your stomach is quite fun. That's kind of one of the big draws of the ride to me. The intensity. While B&M flyers like Superman and Air Galactica, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it now, focuses more on grace, these machines pioneered the way for the flying coaster with a high speed and very aggressive flight. It can cause some riders to gray out in a few areas, a couple of the helixes, or especially earlier in the ride, we're going faster, though those moments are few and far between, and you often have to be more prone to graying out in order to gray out more consistently. And the somewhat snappy transitions kind of work in the intensity's favor here, because you're kind of just being whipped around some of the inversions, or kind of around some of the turns and elements, and it's quite fun. I mean, it's like thrashing you about in your little cage. Not cage, but your restraints. It's kind of fun, but also can be a little something else. It's a fairly intense ride, and I have no complaints with it. Solid 6 out of 10 for intensity. Not the most intense thing in the world, but definitely one of the more intense coasters in the park. Duration. From the POVs I watched, it falls somewhere in the 55 to 60 second ride duration bracket, on top of a 3-minute loading process, easily add at least a minute of chain lift, and easily a minute of stacking. Well, that doesn't matter. I can't dock points or bad ops. The ops were my biggest complaint of this thing, and, well, yeah, they are actually. And the 50-60 second will stand. So it easily just falls into the above average ride duration. 6 out of 10 for duration. No complaints. It feels long enough. Airtime. Yeah, airtime's not the prevalent mode of flyers. I've done 2 other flyers in reviews on my channel, Tatsu and Superman Ultimate Flight, and I can tell you right now that airtime is not the motive of these rides. There are a few fun pops and weightlessness, Some of the turns, inversions, the hang time at the top of the vertical loop on the thing is quite nice. It kind of peters out, more on that in the inversions category. Some of the turns have some weightlessness, especially the inline twists. Being on your back and being flying is a fun bout of hang time mixed with higher gravity because you're just on your back. It's a fun little bout, and there's some good moments of weightlessness on there, albeit brief. Moving on to smoothness. Yeah, this is where it starts to plummet, because this is a Vekoma after all. There's some issues with rattle. It's not really like clunky, it's not really rough, but it rattled considerably. I mean, it did fix some of the issues. Went a long way to fix the issues for Borg Assimilator / Nighthawk, since they're the same ride, but the mistakes were not entirely corrected from that live-action disaster. And Flyers, if there's any coaster you do not want a rattle or roughness on, it is a Flyer. It's supposed to simulate flight, grace, majesty, purity, and peace, not going down in a aircraft that lost one of its wings violently in a meteor shower. Yeah, so there's some problems with smoothness there. And those issues come even worse by the overly convoluted restraints, essentially known as "we have landed" poorly. The restraints are some of the most convoluted and unnecessary restraints I've been trapped in. Yeah, I've said something a long time ago. Wise man have seen the comment sections. Only a veteran can get out of Firehawk's restraints without assistance. Or something along that line. Out of my 3, maybe even 4 or 5 rides in this thing, I was only able to get out on my own power once. I usually had to have an assistant or attendant or basically a ride staffer kind of unlock me. Whether it be my shoulder harness, whether it be the waist bar, the lap bar, or whether it be the feet restraints. Because I think they're all separate parts, which is a problem. In B&Ms, they're all in one. But in Firehawk, they're not. They're entirely separate, if I remember correctly. And while I was getting on my own power, my younger brother mangled himself in his restraints. Well, not actually hurt himself, but he was tightly strapped and stapled in there. And that was fun, getting him out of there. It was just karma for me being extremely talented. It's like, no, you are going to need to get out of this thing with assistance. If you get on your own power, someone that you know is going to get trapped in there badly. These restraints can burn. The theming. There's an attempted theme of a top-secret government fighter jet, named the Firehawk, and is themed closely to the same agency of Flight of Fear. There's some minor architecture decal of a hangar, and some slightly reminiscent trains. Flying elements a short bout of theming, but in short, a simple man can say there's no theming to be seen. The lack of terrain interaction is also insulting, because the entire thing is built on flatland. There's no fly-throughs, maybe other than the occasional support. There's no interaction with water, or the grass, or the ground. You don't do any swooping turns. The lack of terrain interaction for this flyer is insulting. So, yeah. It's not quite fun. It takes away a level of fun, because flyers are really... I love flyers that interact with the terrain. And inversions, I do love Firehawk's inversions, including the Lie to Flies and Fly to Lies. They have 5 inversions. The complete ones are great. The loop is amazing. That's probably my favorite part, because it's reminiscent of the Gerstlauer coasters, where you just kind of stall out at the top of the inversion. You get some hang time. The double inline twist is also a great finale. Just kind of just spiraling out of control twice is quite fun. And the Fly to Lies are quite fun. There's one to start, one to end, and then you go on your back for the loop, and you go back into Fly to Lie some point between the loop and the inline twists. The inversions are quite fun, and I quite enjoyed it. And that kind of marks all the end of the categories. There's no launch, so there's no 9th category. Totals. This thing received in terms of cumulative and sigma, 37 out of 80 possible points, which gives it an average of below 5, particularly 4 and 5/8 out of 10, or 4.625 out of 10. The ride is good, but it's not really worth getting out of your way for. It's a supporting ride. You can't really make this the best ride in your park, not very easily at least. but yes, you can't really say too much. It just kind of supports better rides. It's an easy pick for a flyer because it's the budget option until Vekoma stopped making them, or at least until Fly maybe succeeds. I can't really say too much here because a lot of the lines that I was supposed to say here have been pushed back to the Postmortem, which, speaking of the Postmortem, after saying that this thing got a solid 7 out of 10 for me, I will now speak my final words of Firehawk. Its life was long and to a certain extent prosperous, opening at Geauga Lake as X-Flight on May 4th, 2001. Or May 24th, sorry. And some point during its life, right around Geauga Lake's closing in the mid-2000s, just prior to the recession, it was relocated to Kings Island as Firehawk. Its final day of operation is today, at the end of the operating day, October 28th, 2018. Its fate is not 100% known yet, but several allusions have said to it being scrapped and cannibalized for parts for its sister coaster and prototype model, Nighthawk, at Carowinds. The interest for this ride started from young. I remember being a young boy, just getting into the whole roller coaster thing, about 2007 to 2009 range, and I used to watch Travel Channel. I still do at bouts, but not nearly as much as I used to. I don't watch a lot of TV, period, because YouTube is a more entertaining medium, and I only have to pay for the internet rather than cable and internet. So, I remember back in the glory days of my young life, times were a lot simpler. There was a seasonal travel broadcast of most extreme roller coasters. I don't think it was the show where they rode 5 at once. I'm pretty sure it was more of a documentary style thing, like, or an infotainment, whatever it is. But I remember seeing this thing on TV. This is before I'd even ridden Superman at my home park, and I was blown away by the ingenuity I thought I was seeing. Going from lie to fly, or back to your stomach, back to your back, and into a vertical loop on a flyer. Everything I'd known was just like, wow, I have to go out of my way and ride this thing. Seeing it on TV, I remembered it for a while. Talking about it, it blew my mind more than some of the other rides that were featured on the same show. Dragster, Powder Keg, Millennium Force, King Deca. This thing blew my mind. And it kind of slipped out of my memory as time went on, especially right around 2010. Maybe just a couple years later when I went to Cedar Point for the first time, making my first long-distance travel to an amusement park. I was able to ride Raptor, Cedar Creek Mine Ride, Disaster Transport, particularly Raptor and Magnum being the big fishes there, kind of just making this thing a little more relevant as I actually have experience of what I would consider now better coasters, especially Raptor being my favorite coaster at that time. Then going promptly back to Great America later that summer and cleaning up the entire rest of the credit list minus V2. And Raging Bull becoming my favorite coaster and now still in my top 15 or even top 10 as of today. And the whole Travel Channel thing started becoming more specialized. More programs started becoming regular series-based things than just seasonal iterations. And Travel Channel feigned for my interests. And then come 2014, I was regularly traveling the theme parks. Six Flags Fiesta Texas in May of 2014. Six Flags America in July of 2014. Cedar Point in May of 2015. Again, picking up credits such as Millennium Force for the first time. Quickly becoming my favorite coaster. Hershey Park in June of 2015. And in 2015, after Hershey Park, we were supposed to triangulate our way back to Mason, Ohio, to stay at the Great Wolf Lodge, little not being known that Kings Island was right next door. We tried to go to Kings Island after staying one night at Great Wolf Lodge, right next door to it, when I was 14 years old, which was still really fun. It's one of the best locations. And promptly realizing that the next day was a 100% chance of rain. So instead of going to Kings Island like intended, I had to leave. I had to solemnly leave home, or leave Mason, drive 6 hours back to my house, and continue my mundane summer, at least until August, where at the beginning of August I went to over Georgia and St. Louis. Not until 2 weeks later I got a surprise trip from the same guy who took me to Hershey and Kings Island the first time, my grandfather, and we were going to Kings Island for a weekend before school started up. At least for me. My cousin didn't get to school till 2 weeks later because his district started later than mine. Mine started the Tuesday or Wednesday after the trip I went. Made our way down, stayed at a motel, ate some food, went to bed, and then got up the next day and did Kings Island. Seeing things that weren't there mentioned in the TV show the first time, so especially Diamondback and Banshee being the new toys there, I was really excited. And I finally got to ride Firehawk for the first time as I circulated around the park hitting up Diamondback and Beast and Banshee first. So, what do? I ride Firehawk. It was one of the longest lines I waited in because I did not know the operations would be piss poor. I came off of it, and I loved it. I remember thinking that it was better than Superman Ultimate Flight, my home park flying coaster. But, over the course of the 2 years, till my next ride on it, I did some thinking. And as I thunk, and I rode more coasters in 2016, and some more in 2017, I realized that it was slowly sliding down my list of picks, along my list of favorites. It was in the 20s, fell to the 30s, then fell to the 40s, bottom around the 50s and 60s of an eventual 150 coaster list. Its time was coming. I did not know that it was going to be removed until the 11 shares teaser came around. I knew instantly, as the video that so exploded on my channel a month prior, I knew it was going to be Firehawk. My ride in 2017 going back there to ride Mystic Timbers, as well as picking up the Woodstock Express credit out of curiosity and just to say for killing time, I realized that Firehawk was the one thing I did not anticipate it to be. Mediocre. Having ridden Tatsu the same year, I could safely say Firehawk fell out of my personal preferences. And alas, in 2018, just a couple weeks ago, it was announced to be celebrating its last night today. This very night, October 28th, 2018. All of its fans, all of its riders, its dwindling attendance, its glaring maintenance issues, its issues with smoothness and the restraints and capacity, as well as the large, gaping plot of land that Dinosaurs Alive once took up now being available for real estate, this thing had to go, for the greater good. And it'll be missed by many, if not a few, and I'll be one of the ones that will miss it. But I can say one thing safely, Firehawk, you will be missed. You meant a lot to me when I was young. You meant a lot more to me when I was a little older, and then you meant even less to me when I actually got my shit together. And I always gotta say that your death will do nothing but good for the park. Not because you were a bad ride, but because I can ride the Giga Hype Train 2020 all the way to victory, and take my first university vacation to Kings Island to ride the Giga Coaster that will teabag on your corpse. You meant a lot to me, buddy. But this Giga will mean more. It's been a meme for so long, and your death, your empty, open grave, means a lot for the movement, for the greater good. Rest in peace, Firehawk. May 24th, 2001 to October 28th, 2018. I just realized I'm missing the comma. Frick. The bell tolls for thee. The hole has been made. You will be scrapped and cannibalized for parts to keep a much inferior coaster whose time will likely be coming in the next 5 years, going for a short bout. A bell tolls for thee. Rest in peace, old friend Oboyo. And to all of you, stay alive. I don't want to see you guys going anywhere unless you so need to be. And if your people need you, that's fine. But stay around with me. And in the essence of the underrated joy of your life, and mine too, I wish us all, in celebration of the life of Firehawk, in celebration of the amusement industry and the strides that it's taken forth, I wish us all, and all forever,